Hello again. My name is Anne Russell and I'm from the Russell Family Fetal Alcohol Disorders Association. I stream these videos every week on a Friday in the hope that it will help parents and carers understand their children better, because there are some issues that are very, very difficult to understand and very difficult to manage. The particular issue that we're going to talk about today is rewards and punishment. Talking about discipline and rewards requires a quick overview of parenting. It's important to know that normal parenting, including tough love or natural justice, doesn't work with children with FASD. It just creates a more anxious child and a more difficult home life. Additionally, the normal reward and punishment, which is usually considered to be good parenting, doesn't work either. For example, saying to a child that we will go to the movies on Saturday if you behave through the week requires them to be able to connect behaving through the week with a movie on Saturday. And children with FASD can't do this. The cognitive impairment makes anticipating what comes next very nearly impossible. Combined with memory problems, impulsivity, and not being able to generalise, it rules out most of the usual methods of discipline and reward. Take heart though, there are other ways we can reward and or punish if needed. Remember that every child with FASD is different and will respond to different things. There are core disabilities or syndromes, but generally each child will respond differently, and it may take several different tries before you get the right combination of interventions. You know your child best. You know whether something will work or not, and if you are unsure, give it a go. Children with FASD are not bad. They have a disability. In a situation where punishment is warranted, the first thing to remember, and probably the hardest thing, is to remain calm. Becoming angry or upset creates an environment that causes a person with FASD to become more agitated, so arguments spiral out of control. If your child has done something wrong or has not done something that he was supposed to, think back. What were your instructions to the child? What was the environment at the time of the problem? Was it noisy? Were your instructions too complex? Perhaps your child didn't understand what he had to do. Were your instructions abstract? For example, did you ask your child to fill a glass with water and wonder why he hasn't done it for you? He's going to go to the sink. He's going to wonder which glass, because it didn't specify a glass. Then he's going to wonder how much water he needs to fill the glass with. So try asking him instead to fill the green glass with water up to the top and bring it to you. Now, not every child will have problems with this, and some children with FASD will be able to go to the sink and fill a glass with water. But that was just an example of something that we would normally say, but which is actually abstract to a child with FASD. Sometimes children will argue because they don't understand what's going on. If they argue, it will not be because they've analysed the situation and their opinion differs from yours. The best option is to prevent behaviour before it happens, so punishment is not required. Ensure the environment is appropriate. Are there distractions? Is there too much noise or activity? Have a look at other videos in the series. They may assist with better understanding the behaviour of your child. If your 4-year-old seems to deliberately want to walk on the road, what could have caused that? Have you grabbed him and pulled him back from the road before? Perhaps he is undersensitive and is calmed by the firm grip on his arm that you give him. Or perhaps you've told him not to do it, so he keeps doing it because he doesn't know what you want him to do. When children are told what not to do, they are at a loss about what to do. Additionally, some children with FASD will only hear every second or third word, so the word don't may not have been heard. Imagine trying to figure out what this means. Hear only the or word try, understand people you do. I couldn't understand what that meant. and often children with FASD will only hear every second or third word. Hi, Chris. Meltdowns or arguments can occur after school when the child gets home. These should not be punished because these meltdowns are the result of trying hard to fit into school, hard to fit into school and do the things that they're required to do, not just in the classroom, but also socially with their peers. So this can result in behaviour when they get home that can often defy logic. A tantrum by a 14-year-old that you might expect from a 2-year-old, or rolling around the floor crying from a 10-year-old, or slamming doors and screaming from a 15-year-old, are all an example of the huge amount of effort and energy expended at school trying to fit in. Children with FASD are trying to survive every minute of the day. They tire very easily and they go home exhausted. A calming place where the child can go after school will help to lower stress levels, will reduce meltdowns, and there will be no need for punishment. If you live in a hot environment and you have a swimming pool, perhaps just paddling around in the pool or, going for a swim will help to reduce that stress on the child. There's no benefit in asking a child with FASD why they did something. They will be very unlikely to be able to tell you the reason and may confabulate. More often they'll just say, I don't know. This may lead to the adult becoming angry at the child for lying if they confabulate, which we know is saying what they think that you want to hear. When we know the reasons for certain behaviour, it's clear that punishment is not the answer. Asking for an apology is a common response by a parent if a child does something wrong. But if a child with FASD gives you an apology, it doesn't mean he really understands what's happened or why he is apologising, or that he won't do it again. In fact, when you don't understand why you're getting into trouble, you can't change your behaviour for the future. So you get into trouble for the same thing over and over. This frustrates the parent and they may make the punishment harder or longer for each infringement. This won't work any more than natural justice will. I personally believe there must be consequences for any action that causes personal or property damage or theft, which in the brain of a child with FASD is actually a lack of understanding of ownership. I think every parent of a child with FASD should pick their battles. Some things don't matter at all, while others could have serious consequences for the child in the present and in the future. I don't think there should be punishment as such for a child with FASD. There should be consequences instead. But you say, our kids don't get consequences. How can we give them consequences? It goes against everything we've been told. Well, yes, it does. But I think that in some cases, consequences will happen regardless as to whether our children understand them or not. It's best for them to be prepared as much as possible. Use the opportunity when they're young to instill in them that there are consequences for certain behaviour. And when I say instill, I don't mean that they specifically need to understand the connection, which we know they find almost impossible. I mean provide them with some sort of action which follows another action, so it becomes a convention. They can remember things if we provide repetition. Make the consequences all the same and be consistent. If you want the child to make the connection that is very difficult for them. You want to gently move the child from something unpleasant happens when I do certain things to somebody's just rung me, sorry about that. So you want to move the child gently from something unpleasant happens when I do certain things to I won't do that, take something that doesn't belong to me or damage something, because it's linked with something unpleasant occurring. It may be possible to help your child in this way to avoid the criminal justice system in the future. This is a difficult situation because you need to balance not understanding things like ownership with what I have said in other videos about modifying the environment. For example, if a child has a propensity for stealing, which we know is not really stealing, out of people's purses, then the first thing I would suggest is to modify the environment. That is, make sure that when somebody comes to visit, that their handbag is put away, locked away, or put somewhere where the child can't get it. So there's no opportunity for the child to misunderstand ownership. But what happens when the young teenager becomes an older teenager or adult? It's just not possible to lock everything up that may get stolen. And when they get older, it's not always going to be feasible to provide them with 24/7 supervision. So redirection, or offering an alternative option, can be effective in breaking patterns and intervening in the problems. However, no reward or punishment technique will work all the time with every child. Remember that the child's brain can sometimes work one day and not the next. So any intervention that was working yesterday may not work today. But keep trying. Be consistent. Any discipline should be immediate. The child with FASD will have problems connecting a behaviour on Wednesday with taking away a liberty on Saturday. Many different accommodations will need to be tried until you hit upon success for an individual child. But one thing is important: never use physical discipline. Role models are very important to people with FASD, and they will role model good or bad behaviour. And this is one of the reasons they're often called moral chameleons. Anticipate dangerous situations where the person with FASD could get into trouble. Learn to recognise early signs of trouble and always plan ahead. Never get involved in a debate about the rules with the child. Constantly review and repeat consequences of behaviour, and don't do what I did. Don't allow sympathy, guilt or grief interfere with discipline. Next week I've had a request to talk about adults with FASD, for adults with FASD, so that's going to be quite a difficult one, I think. If you or your organisation would like professional training on FASD, please let me know. My telephone number is 0412 550 540. Hi Jade, we're just finishing now. And my email address is elizabeth@rffada.org. Don't forget to press the subscribe button at the top of your phone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.